Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'd like to talk about electrical appliances that can be used in an EV for winterization preparation. And also, if you haven't, please like and subscribe. So one of the problems with using any type of electrical appliance in an automobile is that the current draw can be enough to drain your battery unless you start the car. And this is something that is not a problem with an EV. You can just make sure the inverter is active, and then that should be enough power. For the standard load that a typical 12 volt cigarette lighter type socket can handle, for the i3 it's 140 watts. So without doing any rewiring, we can use 140 watts.
And I wanted to cover some other interesting things you can do with the EV that you can't do with a regular car. And one of them is the ability to use electrical accessories. So I happen to have this in the closet. I think it was a gift from Christmases long ago. And it contains a 12 volt powered mug. So one of the advantages of this is that you should be able to plug this in and run it for an extended period of time when the car is not off, but when the inverter is running from the EMEs, to be able to power it pretty much indefinitely. So allowing you to have kind of an endless amount of hot drinks or hot water for. All right, so we have this plugged in to the mug, and as you can see, the car is able to handle this easily. The 12 volt outlets are able to handle about 140 watts maximum, so all combined, without blowing the fuse, so it should be okay. If you want to pull more power than that, then we'd have to go back and wire a circuit directly into the EME and the top of the inverter in the back to be able to have a separate power line that's capable of handling pulling of more power. The inverter is capable of between, I think it's 2,000 or 2,500 watts, so that isn't so much of a problem if there's a direct wiring to the unit. So another advantage of an EV over a regular gas car is that you're able to run electrical appliances for quite a while if the inverter is on in the car. I happen to receive this actually as a free sample, not for this, but for some other application. And this is what came in the box, a little 300 watt DC to AC inverter. So again, with the car in an on mode, so the main EME inverter is running, we should be able to get up to 140 watts through the standard 12 volt plugs without blowing a fuse. So what we can do here is I can turn this guy on in the back, and you see we're turning on fine. It also has USB plugs, so that means that I can charge laptops, cell phones, other devices if for some reason I'm stuck in the car for an extended period of time. The final thing I can do is, in addition to what we had shown just a minute ago, I can do this with one hand. I can plug in a regular wall plug that goes to in this case, an ember cup, so I can have hot drinks ready to go and set the temperature to any temperature that I want for this device. So again, I can make hot coffee, hot tea, warm up hot water to make some ramen noodles, or you could probably even put canned soup or canned chili beans in there to warm them up as well with a little bit of stirring. So this cup is well below the 140 watts that the car can take through the standard plugs, cigarette plugs that are available. And you can see this is fine to run at that power level. So another option. The third thing I wanted to show for emergencies is the use of a very small electric blanket, regular 110 volt version that's plugged into the small power inverter. Again, when the car is on, so we have enough, basically continuous power supply to run these devices, which is something you wouldn't have with an ICE car. If you look at this blanket, the maximum is 130 watts, which is below the 140 watts that we want to be pulling, and that's at full power, and probably don't need full power. These are pretty warm. So you can see here, I'm going to go back to the controls, that if I turn it on low setting, I can crank this up to something a little bit more than that. I won't go all the way because I don't think I need to at this point. But this should be more than enough to stay warm in the car. Even if you don't turn on the seat heaters, this should be quite warm enough to use without overtaxing the system at the same time. So if you're in a situation where it's you're stranded in a car and for hours, and you don't want to use all of the power in your battery by turning on the heater, and you maybe don't have a seat heater as well, you could use this to keep you warm, or a combination of the seat heater plus this in pretty cold weather should be more than enough to allow you to stay warm. So in addition to these three items, I can feel it already. It's getting warm, so it's definitely working. So I think you'd be quite toasty to be able to nap or sleep in the car for an extended period of time with this thrown over the top of you. And again, it's well within the means of the electrical system to handle that much load. The final thing I wanted to mention that I think would be worthwhile, but I don't have, but I'm thinking about getting one, is some portable hot pots that are capable of running at around 100 watts to 300 or 400 watts if you wanted to, but you could set it down to the low settings and use it within this car without doing any rewiring, and really do some full dinner type cooking rather than just warming up noodles or other small snacks to keep going during an emergency situation. So that's what I had for you for today. We'll come back with part 3 with more weatherizing, winterizing for EVs in the next episode.